What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, September 3rd, 2023, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 12:20 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States. We have some more concerning information coming out of Russia. Apparently, Russia has deployed their latest nuclear armed submarine to the Pacific Ocean. This is one of their Bore class submarines. It's their newest submarine, and it's called the Generalissimo Suvorov. And this is one of six Bore class subs that Russia has. They also have five Delta IV class subs, which are their older subs. This is one of their latest submarines, and it can carry the Bulava missile, which is their newest submarine launched ballistic missile. It can carry up to six warheads per missile, and each of these submarines can carry up to 16 missiles. Now, the Bulava missile and the Bore class sub are still no match for the U.S. Ohio class submarine, which can carry 24 Trident 2 D5 missiles, and each Trident missile can carry 12 half megaton warheads. So they're still much smaller and much less capable than the U.S. Ohio class subs, but this is still significant when you look at everything that's been happening for the past few weeks. And on Friday, when Russia announced that they were putting their RS-28 Sarmat on combat alert. Okay, the RS-28 Sarmat is a liquid-fueled, super heavy, silo-based ICBM that is designed for a first strike. Okay, it can carry a very heavy payload, so it can carry a lot of warheads and very large warheads, which would be used for a first strike, and it's liquid fueled. So Russia putting their latest RS-28 Sarmat land-based missiles on combat alert, combat duty, and now we're getting breaking news that they just put their latest submarine on combat duty and they're deploying it to the Pacific. Okay, so very concerning stuff. And if you're not aware, FEMA and the FCC are going to be testing the emergency alert system on October the 4th of this year, so just about a month from now. And they're going to do it at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, it's on a Wednesday, and it's going to last for about 30 minutes. And the test is going to occur at 2:20 p.m., and that's on a Wednesday. And everybody in the country will get an emergency alert message on their TVs, radios, and cell phones. Okay. So, this to me is clearly a test of nuclear war readiness. Okay. The only time the US would ever use an emergency alert system nationwide is in the event of a nuclear war. Okay. Otherwise, the emergency alert system is used locally and regionally by states and local governments. But a nationwide test, to me, is just clearly a test for nuclear war readiness. Okay, in case there's a nuclear war, they have to alert the US population of where the missiles are going and how soon they're going to get there and instructions on how to take shelter. Okay, this is how the US military, the US government would alert us if there's a nuclear war. If Russia suddenly decides they've had enough and they launch a first strike against Europe and the United States, this is how they would alert you. Okay. And so they have to make sure that the system works. So if you want to read more about it, I'm going to leave a link in the comments section. I'm going to pin a comment with this link to this website here. This is the FEMA website. You can read more of the details, but basically it's going to happen October the 4th, which is a Wednesday, 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Everybody in the country will get a message to their cell phone, radio, and TV. And the backup day, in case something were to happen, is is October 11th. Okay. If for whatever reason, October 4th, they can't make it happen, October 11th is the backup day. All right. So, very concerning stuff. A lot of escalation going on. Last night, we had a nuclear war command and control plane that was flying over the Midwest, and this is an E6B Mercury. This is a plane that could be used to remotely launch all of our Minuteman III ICBMs. It can also send out emergency war orders to our ballistic missile submarines and to our bombers. Okay, an emergency war order is literally a launch code, okay, a nuclear launch code telling the submarines and the bombers to launch their missiles, okay? And they can also communicate nuclear attack options, which are also known as emergency action messages. They can also broadcast what are known as force direction messages, which are a little bit different than emergency action messages, but basically all the same, just telling the submarines what the targets are. And then once those submarines have the targets, then they get their emergency war order, which is the order to launch. Okay. So these planes are critical, but they can also remotely launch our silo based ICBMs from the air using the airborne launch control system. So it's kind of concerning that this one was flying over the Midwestern US, because they would only do that if there was a threat of a nuclear war. They fly over the Midwestern US in order to remotely launch the silo-based ICBMs, okay? So they can launch from the air in case something were to happen to the launch control centers on the ground. So, get prepared, guys. Russia and the US are preparing for nuclear war, and so should you. Okay. Make sure you have a fallout shelter. If you don't have a basement in your house, what I recommend is to find a building in your area that you can get to by walking that has a basement. If there's no basements in your area, that's okay. You have to remember that you can use distance to your advantage as well. So if you find like a Walmart or a Home Depot or some kind of large store, like a big box store, that's still going to protect you from radiation, even though the outside of the building may not have super heavy construction, but because it has so much square footage, you can go to the middle of that building, and that distance is going to reduce the radiation drastically via the inverse square law. Okay. And if you want to learn more about finding a shelter, improvising a shelter, check out my How to Survive Nuclear War series. I'll leave links in the top right corner. We also have some breaking news coming from Belarus. Here we have an article from TASS, which is the Russian government news, and they're saying that there's exercises of the CSTO starting in Belarus already. They started on the 1st, which was 2 days ago on Friday, and it's supposed to last through the 6th, okay? And this exercise is known as the Combat Brotherhood exercise of 2023. And basically, the CSTO is like a Russian NATO, all right? Now, what's interesting about this exercises, they're going to include radiological, chemical, and biological protection forces and medical support units. Okay. So they're basically doing nuclear, biological, chemical, radiological, CBRN, or NBC exercises during this exercise. Okay. So that's pretty interesting. And then obviously yesterday we had breaking news that Belarus received 12 Iskander ballistic missile units from Russia. That's very suspicious. Okay. So things are really ratcheting up, guys. Okay. Things could pop off anytime. I hope it doesn't happen. I pray it doesn't happen, but I'm ready. So make sure you guys are ready too. We also have breaking news that North Korea conducted a mock tactical nuclear strike drill that simulated strikes on airfields and command centers in South Korea. They fired 2 ballistic missiles. Okay, very interesting. And last night, Russia launched a drone strike on Ukraine, and they targeted the Odessa region. That's the port city where all the grain is coming out of. And they launched 25 drones, and 22 of them were shot down, and 3 of them hit some targets and did some pretty serious damage. I want to just share with you guys the latest situation on the ground in Ukraine. This is an interactive map from the Institute for the Study of War, and this should have the latest information on the front lines. So here's that critical land bridge that Russia formed. This is critical for Russia, connecting mainland Russia to Crimea, and this is exactly what Ukraine wants to split in half. And they're having a lot of progress here the last week or so. And I want to just show you how far the Ukrainians have come through the fortifications. So all these triangles here represent the defensive lines that Russia built. And you can see that they already penetrated the first line, and they're already at the second line. And beyond the second line, there's really not much. I mean, you have like these smaller fortification lines, but they don't go the whole section east to west. You know, they're only going a couple. This, like this one right here, this third line, it's only like 5 or 10 miles wide. You know, so they can just bypass that. And then they have another one back here that's just mostly around this little village. And then they have one line around the city of Tokmak. So really, they've done the hardest work already. They've penetrated the first 2 lines, which were the most extensive. You can see those lines, how far they go. They basically go the entire length of the front line. Okay, and so they've already penetrated the first 2 lines. Beyond that, these lines beyond the first 2 are just, you know, smaller, and they don't go the whole length east to west. So I expect Ukraine to make more gains. And obviously, if they get those depleted uranium shells this week, that's definitely going to help them out. And we did have a AWACS plane in the air last night along the Romanian Black Sea coast, and it was aerially refueled. My guess is it was in the air to keep an eye on those drones flying towards Odessa. You know, the U.S. provides radar services to Ukraine when there's airstrikes and missile strikes and stuff like that. They send the AWACS into Romania or eastern Poland, and they can tell Ukraine where these missiles and drones are coming from, so Ukraine can get a better lock on these drones and shoot them down, or missiles or whatever. And finally, here we have a picture of an unexploded missile that landed in Kramatorsk in the middle of the highway here, and it just landed and never exploded. So, absolutely crazy situation, guys. Things are escalating. Make sure you have a nuclear war survival plan. What are you going to do if there's a nuclear war? If you're close to a nuclear war target, you need to think about whether or not you're within the blast radius. Okay, if you're within 5 to 10 miles of a nuclear war target, you're going to be affected by a pretty strong blast wave overpressure that could collapse your building that you're living in. At the very least, blow out windows, depending on the yield of the weapon used. And you can find a list of all nuclear war targets in the US, Canada, and Europe on my website for free, NYPrepper.com. There's a link in the description below this video. I've also done videos on it. They're in my nuclear war survival playlist. But if you're not within the blast radius, your primary threat is going to be fallout, okay? Fallout would spread across the entire North American continent, okay? It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the Northwest Territories, you're still going to get fallout, okay? It's going to spread across the entire North American continent. So even if you're hundreds of miles away from any target, the fallout will reach you to a certain extent. It may not be as bad if you're, you know, that far away, but you're still going to get some fallout. So you need to have a fallout shelter, which in the best case scenario is a full basement. Okay, a full basement is your best case scenario. And if you have any windows or walkout doors, you need to pile up sandbags or just dirt along those walkout doors and windows so you don't get radiation coming in through there. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I'll leave links to my nuclear war survival videos and playlists in the top right corner. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.